Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, we're going to talk about how the Super Bowl may have previewed WrestleMania 37. Are WWE thinking about bringing cardboard fans to the big event?
Arn Anderson teases a potentially life-changing AEW storyline.
Going to tell you the AEW wrestler who is currently dealing with an injury.
And Ed shares the amazing true story of Christian's WWE return. I'm Adam Wilborn.
I'm Andy Murray.
And this is the news.
Okay, let's kick things off by talking about the hand egg. First of all, congratulations to the Baltimore Bastards on lifting another Super Bowl trophy. But cutting through the bollocks, the NFL welcomed around 25,000 fans into the Raymond James Stadium for the Super Bowl last night. Supplementing this number were around 30,000 cardboard cutouts sitting in the empty seats, kind of making it look a little bit fuller, making it look more like an event. WWE, obviously, holding WrestleMania 37 in the very same stadium on the 10th and the 11th of April. Will WWE go down the same route? You know, we've already heard that they're planning on inviting 25 to 30,000 fans into the building on both nights. Are they going to have cardboard fans in there as well? WrestleVote says maybe, but it's not currently in their mind. I'll just read the tweet here. With the Super Bowl tonight at Raymond James Stadium, home of WrestleMania 37 in 9 weeks, so far WWE has been against the idea of filling the empty seats with cutouts, as the NFL has done. I assume that decision will be discussed again now as the stadium looks great. It's kind of a double benefit thing, I think, the whole cardboard fan thing. Yes, it makes it look fuller. I've not watched the Super Bowl, but the clips and the still images I've seen, it looked a lot cooler than empty seats. But on top of that as well, I imagine it's also quite good with helping physical distancing, right? Mm-hmm. You got this massive pile of cardboard in the way, you're not going to brawl through that to go and illegally hug someone and give them the Rona. You can't do it. There's cardboard in the way, and as we all know, cardboard is invincible and cannot be broken. In all seriousness, I'm in favour of this idea for the physical distancing aspect of it as well. But also, it looks better. It's going to be a bit tougher in pro wrestling, right? Because the camera's a lot closer to the crowd, for a longer duration. The ring is only like a couple of feet away from the crowd. So you'll have these cardboard things in the front row like this. It'll look a bit weird, but it'll look better than empty seats, won't it, Adam?
Yes, exactly. I was hoping they were going to use the crowd straight out of SmackDown 2 Know Your Role, but this is a sufficient exchange in my eyes. I got to say, I stayed up to watch the Super Bowl last night, and I think I've just been so starved of entertainment with fans in attendance. You know, you and I have enjoyed watching football still, and like you say, the WWE and AEW have found different ways of working around this. But watching that, and I don't know whether it was just my eyes being tricked, because as you say, it did visually look when they were doing the wide shots like it was just a stadium packed full of people, or just the fact that even 25,000 is better than the, 2, 3, 4, 5,000 or so that we've seen at other events over the past few months. I just thought, an element of normality has come back, and an element of normality continued with Tom Brady winning another Super Bowl, because you can't argue against it. He is the GOAT now. But yeah, it got me very, very excited for April. And I think WWE will end up doing this cardboard fans thing. A, because of the reasons you've suggested. And B, because they'll just flog it as a big sort of package where you can have a virtual meet and greet with your favourite wrestler as well. Yeah, exactly. Not to pour cold water on this whole situation, but I think it has to be said. Of course, the situation is totally fluid. Things change all the time. There's no guarantee we'll be. If it comes out that the NFL game last night was like a super spreader event, yes,
we may have problems with WrestleMania 37. But if it goes ahead and it's safe to do so, and we have the option of having cardboard fans there to supplement the 25 to 30,000, I think it's a good idea. Let's do it.
Yes, exactly. Wear a mask. Right, let's move on to AEW and talk about this potentially life-changing storyline. Arn Anderson was talking about it on his On podcast, which is genuinely one of the best podcasts out there that isn't ours, WhatCulture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcast from, and said about it, to be perfectly honest, there's something that's going to be happening, I hope, pretty soon on AEW. I will keep that close to the vest until that does happen, but it will change my life 100%, and it will change that individual's life 100% as far as building a new tag team for the future. That may be the first building block, and we'll just sit on that for now, but there are some plans in the works. Now, this continues off the back of Tully Blanchard and FTR talking about how much they've benefited from working together, and Arn Anderson saying, I'd quite like to work with them as well. Basically, we've all read this morning, Andy, and thought, are they finally going to pull the trigger on something they've been teasing for months now? Are we getting the 4 Horsemen in AEW?
Well, yeah, this has been teased a lot on so many different occasions. It's been spoken about by people on podcasts and, people within the company and everything else. When Arn Anderson says it's going to change his life, that's pretty goddamn significant, because you think of the life that man has lived in pro wrestling, still relevant today, 40, 50 years later. Incredible career, one of the greatest of all time. So if it's going to change that man's life, it's pretty significant. I eagerly await whatever the hell this is, whether it's the 4 Horsemen, whether it's, Arn managing Chaos Project. I don't know. I have no idea. I'd like to see them play around with some kind of 4 Horsemen thing. It's worth pointing out as well, perhaps, that Arn filed a trademark application for the 4 Horsemen in pro wrestling in September. That's still ongoing. It hasn't been decided yet. That might hold things up. I'm not sure. But I'm interested either way. I just love Arn Anderson, man. He's one of my favorites. So him and doing stuff, it's good.
If they have to get around it by calling the 4 Horsey Men, then I'd be fine with that as well. Because like you say, the potential team with FTR, MJF, and take your pick for the 4th member. It's really, really exciting.
Yeah, exactly. I have not thought through my seating position today, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy this sunlight coming through the... What a mess.
It's snowing outside my window, mate, so don't worry about it.
It's snowing here as well, and doing this. What a weird day. Speaking of weird, AEW star dealing with injury. I've got it written down on my iPad. Fightful Select have come through with a new report on Kip Sabian. He's currently working through an injury. That's the reason you haven't seen him wrestle since Winter is Coming. 2nd of December, he was in the Battle Royal. Now, you might not have noticed that Kip Sabian was hurt, because he's been on TV every single week working the wedding stuff with Penelope Ford and Miro. Of course, they had the wedding last week, which did well in the ratings. People love wrestling weddings. It's nuts. But there's no word on the extent of the injury or when Kip will be cleared to compete again. But he's dealing with a problem. That's why he's not in the ring. The storyline continues nonetheless.
It's a shame. I really like watching Kip Sabian work in the ring, and I just assumed that injury was going to be his bruised pride after Orange Cassidy and Chuck Taylor ruined his wedding next week. Hopefully, the only benefit I can see coming off the back of this is we just get to see Miro murder Chuck Taylor and have a pretty inevitably entertaining match against Orange Cassidy down the line. But yeah, get well soon, Kip Sabian, because he's got real potential in AEW. I've not been a huge fan of this whole wedding shtick, but he's got something, hasn't he? And then this relationship, obviously, he's got, genuine relationship with Penelope Ford. There's something there that they could definitely build on. And I still have faith in something going on with this Miro storyline, despite everything that's happened, because the amount of the brains that they've got around it, particularly someone like Miro, who's got a point to prove in AEW, I think there could be something there. But yes, get well soon, Kip Sabian. Let's conclude. Speaking of injuries taking people out of wrestling, I'll allow it. Let's talk about the return of Christian. Of course, it happened last weekend at the Royal Rumble, and Edge has been talking about in a recent interview with Sporting News, revealing all about it, revealing the sort of surprise nature of it all. Edge saying, I was one of the few that was privy to the fact that he got cleared a few months ago, but we didn't know he was going to be in the Rumble until Friday. I was in the midst of driving down to his house from North Carolina to stay for the weekend, and then we found out and we were like, okay, well, we'll drive down to the Rumble together then, which is just, that makes me feel so happy when I hear stories like that. He continued talking more about the sort of genuine nature of his reaction to it all. He knew it was going to happen. He knew Christian was going to be in the Rumble, but he's got half an hour of the match under his belt, so he's probably concentrating more on that. Then his mate's music hits, and he said, to pull the curtain back a little bit, this wasn't Edge reacting to Christian returning. This was Adam Copeland reacting to Jason. I never know whether it's Rizzo or Rezzo, the one who plays Christian, coming down to the ring, and that was that was why the audience probably connected with it even more. The genuine nature of it all, Andy.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was one of those cathartic, emotional moments that you can't just write in a room. It has to emanate from real life circumstances. Delighted to have Christian back, and I'm really looking forward to whatever's next.
Give him that Intercontinental Championship match, Big E. Right, okay, let's move on to your Twitter questions. At WhatCulture WWE, of course, if you want to get in touch with us. Matt Ryan, aka Aussie Dead, gives us our first question of the day, saying, who do you see winning the Eliminator tournament, determining who faces Shida for the AEW Women's Championship?
I think it's going to be Britt Baker. She's been ready for the belt for ages. I did a whole video essay on this last year, in fact. But yeah, I think Britt's going to go through that competition, win the whole tournament. I could see an argument for several other people. I think Riho would be interesting to really establish her now that she's back. But Britt's the standout for me. Give her the belt. Do it.
I was genuinely surprised when I saw Britt Baker's name in that tournament, because I thought they could do the thing where they transition the belt onto, as much as I've enjoyed Hikaru Shida being AEW Women's Champion, transition the belt onto Britt Baker and have the winner of this tournament, who prior to that knowledge I probably would have said it's definitely going to be Riho. It would have been a nice feud going on from that. Maybe they're going to do it that way round, Andy. Maybe they're going to put the belt on Britt and then have a feud with Riho. Maybe she cheats to win the tournament or whatever. But regardless, really excited to see all that Japanese talent in the tournament, and just AEW focusing on women's wrestling. I think there's going to be some good exposure on that. Right, let's move on to our second question of the day. Jake gives it to us, saying, now this feud with Belair is over, I don't see many top tier faces left for Bayley to take on at WrestleMania. Who would you fantasy book Bayley against at the show of shows?
So yeah, with Bianca Belair occupied, and there's not really another up-and-coming babyface on that SmackDown roster that I would point to and go, this person here could really use the elevatory feud. Maybe if you were going to bring Naomi over from Raw, put her on SmackDown, and you could have them work a program up to WrestleMania. That would be really cool, but I don't think that's going to happen. With that in mind, it's kind of a repeat of last year, but I like the idea of Bayley versus Io Shirai on this show. It'd be a great match, obviously. But you could have Bayley get all cocky and go, I'm going to do what Charlotte did last year, and then just lose at WrestleMania. Have her put Io Shirai over. I think that's a really interesting idea. I'd like to see it. Will it happen? I'm not convinced, but Bayley's road to WrestleMania is wide open at the moment.
Yeah, as much as, she's obviously not going to be main eventing or anything like that, I think you could put with almost anyone and expect a great match out of her. Like you say, I do like the idea of the NXT Championships being defended at WrestleMania. We've sort of alluded to that before, and I know people have been talking about it more recently as well. I think there's even a message over the weekend from WrestleVotes talking about the potential of Balor defending at WrestleMania, for example. Completely left field, and also making me a massive hypocrite, because I always go, oh bloody hell, I hate all these thrown together tag teams. What about a thrown together tag team? Bayley and Billy Bloody Kay against, I don't know, the Riot Squad, because the odd couple tag team stuff is bloody played out in WWE, but I do feel like there's something there, especially off the back of this week's SmackDown with Bayley and Billy Kay, eventually, hopefully, Andy, leading to a reunion with the Iconics.
That's not happening, brother.
No. Wishful thinking, I think. Right, final question of the day comes from, I'm going to butcher this, Otu Sicko on Twitter. Apologies if I've messed up your name there. Who says, it's more of a booking idea, which I really liked, so I thought I'd mention it here, Andy. I think Shaq should swerve us, come out and condescendingly say, I'm 48 years old, I know one move. He thought I'd really face you, and bring out Nick Aldis as his replacement. I really like that, Andy. I
am dead against bait and switches of any kind. I think they're a very destructive promotional tactic. So while I think, it would be a better match.
Yes.
It could be a better wrestling match if Nick Aldis was in there. And Nick Aldis has history with Cody, of course. So there's a nice link there. I would strongly discourage any pro wrestling organization from bait and switching like that. It's
and
just not.
Especially when they're baiting basketball fans, presumably, to watch in and around that time.
Right, exactly. If you're a casual basketball fan, you just like Shaq and you want to see him do stuff on that show. If you tune in and Nick Aldis comes out, you're going to be raging. So it's a dangerous game. I see where this idea comes from, but I think objectively it would be a very poor idea for AEW to do that.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think I just would rather see Cody face almost anyone other than Shaq.
It's a much better match, yeah. It's a much better match, and I'm not into the Shaq stuff at all, but bait and switches, let's not do that.
Yeah, this is going to be a baptism of fire, isn't it, with Shaq and Jay Cargill in there. But if anyone can pull a great match out of them, I reckon Cody and Red Velvet could well do it. So I'm intrigued nonetheless. Right, let's move on to today's and finally. And I'm going to show you a tweet from Mick Foley, but this is just a kind of overall... How ridiculous is life? Talking about the fact that bloody Gronk, the man who danced to the ring when the build-up to last year's WrestleMania, scored 2 touchdowns and yet again won the Super Bowl last night. One of the greatest achievements for 24/7 champions ever. Mick says, Rob Gronkowski has to be considered the greatest WWE 24/7 champion of all time. Second best, but you know. Thanks for playing.
It's amazing. It really is amazing that someone can go from the greatest WWE run of all time last year to winning the Super Bowl, scoring 2 touchdowns. Congratulations to the Robert Gronker. Yep.
Let us know your thoughts on that and all of today's news stories in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And subscribe to WhatCulture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. Myself and the Dandy Boys sitting down to preview Monday Night Raw later, and some really good discussion topics we're going to be chatting about as well. But also, you can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. Watch there. Follow both of us. You can follow Andy Murray at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for Happy Birthday Big Show. 49 today, which is also the number of times he has turned face or heel within the course of this news video. So good for him.
Well, God, he's turned face. I did the face and heel turns, every single one video, about 2 years ago, and every time he turns, which has been, like you say, about 10 in the interim, Hamflet, who wrote it, goes... That's another one we need to add to the list. Oh, and again, and again. So watch him. I don't know. Is he face or heel runner? He's face now. Yes.
Big Show does what the Big Show does, man.
Well, regardless, he's going to turn heel and face whoever wins the WrestleMania main event in a bonus WrestleMania main event the next night, probably this year. Who knows? Happy birthday, though, Big Show legend. Right, you can follow me on Twitter at Adam Wilmore. Follow us all at WhatCulture WWE, as I said. But for now, my thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon. What's Gronk's full name again?
Robert.